Good evening. My name is LaShonda McAllister, and I'm going to be talking about child abuse and neglect. What is child abuse and neglect? Well, it's defined as child abuse. It is any recent act or failure to act on the part of a parent or caregiver that results in death, serious physical or emotional harm, sexual abuse, exploitation, or an act or failure to act as a child. Child abuse isn't just about black eyes or physically harming a child. While physical abuse is shocking due to marks it leaves, not all signs of child abuse are as obvious, such as ignoring a child's needs, putting them in unsupervised positions, leaving them in dangerous situations. Those are all examples of child abuse. Abuse and neglect not only happens in poor families or bad neighborhoods. It seems as if people feel like child abuse only happens to the poor, but a lot of studies shows that a lot of child abuse happens in a lot of wealthy families because people feel that by you rewarding the child so much, taking that away, or that's a sign of abuse and neglect. Abuse and neglect not only happen, these behaviors cross all over racial, economic, and cultural lines. Sometimes families who seem to have it all from the outside are hiding a different story behind closed doors. Child abuse is the mistreatment of children. It could be in the form of physical, sexual, or psychological maltreatment of children. Children who are abused are likely to have developmental as well as emotional problems, such as, you can see warning signs from kids who are abused because they show the sign of guilt or anxiety. They have a problem with speaking out. They don't feel comfortable with being around other folks. The four main types of abuse is physical, sexual, emotional, and child neglect. Physical abuse is a non-accidental physical injury to a child caused by a parent, caregiver, or other person responsible for a child, and can include punching, beating, kicking, biting, shaking, and all the above. There is a big difference between using physical punishment to discipline and physical abuse. With physical abuse, you have examples such as lashing out. You have abusive parents who act out of anger and always want to have control over everything. They don't give that motivation or have that loving touch towards a child. The angrier parent is the more intense to abuse. Another is sexual abuse. Sexual abuse is the complicated form of abuse between its layers of guilt and shame. Exposing the child to sexual situations or material sexually abusive, whether or not touching is involved. That may include constant criticism, threats. You could do sexual abuse by the way you look at a child, the words that you say to a child that's not appropriate. We then have emotional abuse. Emotional abuse is very hard to prove, such as Child Protective Services can't prove emotional abuse because it's not nothing physical that like physical abuse might leave a mark, but emotional abuse, you never know when a child is being emotionally abused. Examples of emotional abuse is constant belittling, shaming, humiliation in front of others. An example of emotional abuse is a child cutting up in school, being very disrespectful, and as a parent, you feel like shaving their hair in patches or making them wear a certain type of clothing in school. That's a form of emotional abuse because then they have to go to school and deal with the bullying and all of that. One of the last main factors of abuse is child neglect. Child neglect is very common in child abuse, which is a pattern of failing to provide for a child's basic needs, which includes adequate amount of food and clothing, hygiene, or just supervision in general. Child neglect is not always easy to spot. Sometimes a parent might become physically or mentally unable to care for the child. For example, the parent may get sick and can't care for the child, or parent might go through a stage of depression and they feel like they cannot care for the child. Other times, alcohol or drug abuse may seriously impair judgment and the ability to keep the child safe. These times, child neglect is at an all-time high, and it's sad. And working in the field that I work in, I see a lot of cases where I have to deal with the child abuse and the child neglect. And we take in a lot of children at my job who are under care from the state because of these problems. My name is LaShawna McAllister. Thank you.